This is my first time on YouTube, so forgive me. What we have is a 2005 Trailblazer, 4.2 liter, with low oil pressure. And what we're going to do here tonight is we're going to put in the spacer between the oil filter and the oil filter adapter with a really nice little gauge on it there, and find out what the oil pressure actually is. Don't want to start just changing out parts until we figure it out. Now, these can be bought off of eBay for under 30 bucks for everything. The oil pressure gauge, the adapters, the whole 9 yards. The one thing you have to be careful of is this piece right here. It'll come as a 20 millimeter by 1.5. You have to go search eBay for a 13/16. 13/16 is what is a standard shivvy. And we're going to install that, and we're going to find out what exactly the oil pressure is. Probably leave it in, put in a mechanical gauge or probably an electric gauge, so it's nice and easy and neat. So we can put that up on the dash for future reference. There you have it. We're idling at 600 RPM. Oil pressure is at 0. The engine is warm. We have it running just under 220. We give it just a little bit of gas, run it up there to 1500, and there comes the oil pressure. Just like you think it should. Let it drop down, goes to 0. Get a check engine light. Driver's door is ajar. A little while it'll come back and say low oil pressure. Shut off engine before things blow up. Engine is quiet, smooth. No issues that I can see. Not a single clack or clatter from the lifters. No low end noise. Not too sure exactly what the problem is. So let's get on with the installation and we'll see what. Alrighty. Now to get at it, we're going to remove the plastic shield. Probably just leave it off until we're completely done with the exercise, no matter what we change. Put it back on after we have things figured out and fixed. And start taking bolts out. Alrighty. Alright. Get that onto there so we can see what we have. There is the oil filter adapter. And son, could you get the light over a little bit more in that area? There is the oil pressure switch. Leaking, oil filter is off. And we are going to put the adapter on now. Hopefully it'll work out very well. Hold that for me, son. Okay, now then, this is the adapter, and I actually bored it out a little bit, so it kind of comes with like a, I don't know, 7/16 or a ½ inch hole, and I took it out substantially so it more closely resembles the hole in the, hold on. Okay. Give me some light on the subject. Let's see if I can get this to work. There it is. My golly, it threaded right on there. Nice. Okay. Get a good picture of that. I have a 30 psi gauge. At higher RPMs that will be worthless, but we'll certainly be able to see what the pressure is at lower RPMs. Oops. There it is. I have a 30 psi gauge, so we can easily see the lower pressures of the idling speed. Make sure that at 1200 RPMs it's at least 12 psi. And there's something down there around 600 RPMs, just to make sure. Just took 1/8 of an inch, or 1 1/8 socket, just snugged it up good and snug, just kind of like about the tightness of an oil filter. I don't want to break anything when we're hard at it. Kind of pretty much like to leave it in there and actually use one of the other ports. As you can see, it has 3 ports. Use one of the other ports for a electric gauge for future. All right. So did you get the light in there a little better? A little more light? Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now you can see the gauge. You can see the oil filter installed. Now it's real close right here. So I had to use a shorter filter. The one I have in there is AMSOIL EAO 64. It's actually the replacement for the filter that comes from the factory. It is slightly shorter, about 3/4 of an inch, and it allows for installation with that adapter plate in there. Okay, let's start it up and see what we got. Alright, the engine has cooled off slightly. So we actually have oil pressure indicated. But here I am idling. Engine indicating 160 degrees. And I have between 25 and 30 psi at 600 RPMs. Engine slowing down a little bit. Must be getting down to that 550, 600 where it actually idles. Oil pressure is bobbing between 25 and 27. I'll just let it idle here until we get a 0 indication on our gauge and get back to you. Alrighty, we had to warm it up quite a bit to get it to work. But here it is, idling at 600 RPM. Nice and smooth, quiet. My pressure gauge is reading 16. Goes down to 16, kind of wanders up to 17, down to 16, back up to 17. It's at 600 RPM, folks. Pressure gauge in the cabin is reading 0. It is reading nothing. Again, it is just a switch. Just indicates that you have oil pressure. I think this engine and the platform was designed just to have a light, no gauge. But you know, you're paying big money, you got leather upholstery, you got dual climate sensors, things. They've just got everything you can imagine on this car. They just couldn't help themselves, had to put a gauge on there. Rather than wiring one in like sane people, they just decided to let the computer show 40 psi or greater, or nothing. There you have it. We have 0 psi on the dash, and it's running a good solid 16, 17 at 600 RPMs. So I'm going to run it up to about 1,000 and hold it there. There we are. Wrap the needle all the way around, past the 30, up there somewhere around 40 psi at 1,200 RPMs. On the positive side, this is a great engine. This thing will last, it's got 155,000, it'll last 300,000 miles. Put good synthetic oil in it. Stay on top of it a little bit. This will be a great engine. Anyway, folks, for 30 bucks, you can buy the adapter, the little red thing up there, buy the pressure gauge. Gotta wait a couple of weeks. Probably has come all the way from China. Do have to put a slightly shorter filter. Have to do some research to get the filter that's about 3/4 of an inch shorter, so you can put that adapter in. And you can check it. Don't have to haul it down and pay somebody $500 to check it and tell you it's going to be a $3,000 bill to fix it. Just check it right off the bat. 15, 16 psi at 600 RPMs. Run it up there to 1,000 to 1,200, and the thing's putting out 40, 45. This is a tight engine. We're good. Thanks for listening.